Monday and it's coffee talk. Welcome, everybody. Today's show is for those who have a passion for dance education and studio ownership. We are brought to you by the Regal Company, and I'd like to say welcome to you and welcome to my co-host, Laura. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, Ree. How are you today?
I'm in a good mood. I'm excited to talk to Ashley Canterna-Hardy. I get excited when I see her journey because I've known her a long time. And watching her maneuver through and recently open a studio for kids, it's like, okay, this is a case study for me. I love this.
Yes. And I feel like her journey is so different from mine. I mean, everyone's journey of studio ownership is so different, but hers is so different because it was a studio and a pre-existing one that she was heavily involved in. And then she got to transform it into her dream. So it's going to be a really good talk. I'm excited.
How about you? What's new and exciting in your dance world?
Oh, what's new and exciting? We're in the thick of it. Company costumes are rolling in. So we're in the middle of costume world, Ree. And my husband was so thankful that the 500 company costumes are out of my garage, but he doesn't realize that the other 500 are going to be rolling in before Christmas for recreational. But it's good. I keep telling him, I'm like, I have that many students. That's what we're thankful for. We're thankful that we have that many. And he's like, that's true, but I want them out of my garage. I'm like, fair enough.
Isn't it nuts, though? I think about it, and time flies as you get older, so bear with me. But seems like 2 weeks ago, we were registering, and you've got competition costumes already. It's the whole world of dance education has been sped up in the last few years.
Yeah.
It's no longer, I do this at this time of the year. I do this at this time of the year. It's everything's tackled.
Yes. I feel like the ball there is no, I wonder if other people feel this way. I feel like there isn't a season anymore. It's just, we're just a business, like there might be different parts of the business and maybe it's a little bit slower when the studio's closed for summer, couple weeks. But even then it's like, we're still renovating or painting or to me, I feel like the deeper I get into the dance journey, it's just more concrete what a true business we all are, right? It's not some hobby, it's not some seasonal side gig. Like, it's a true working every single day, all year round business. Truly.
It is today. But I actually grew up in a time where literally the day after the recital was summer. And it didn't mean you didn't have dance, but the studio closed down. You went to dance conventions, went cross country, but it was not successful business strategies.
Right.
It wasn't thought of that way, Yeah. So it's a totally different world. I agree with you. And the success that can be achieved by those who have a passion for this, way beyond what they were in the past.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. I look at my home studio owner and I used to go to her for advice all of the time when I first opened up 13 years ago. And then it was interesting towards the end before she closed due to COVID. I saw the transition of her coming to me because things were changing. The dance world was changing, and I was kind of like, I never thought that would be the position, but it just kind of shows our industry. It's consistently changing and growing and flourishing. And I think it's on us studio owners to make sure that we're continuing to grow and educate ourselves, right? To keep up with it.
This is it. For those out there who may be watching or will watch in the future, I could be one of those people. Maybe I'll say this. My mother was this person. I can't be this person. Here's the person. Well, I've been doing it for 30 years that way. So why am I going to make change?
Yeah.
I feel like the dance education field, the dance industry has never moved as fast as it's moving now. And so if you're set in your ways and you have certain philosophies and certain ways you want to do things, do it. Make that your foundation, but be open to everything that is new, fresh, and what parents want for their children and what children want. That's so important. Yes, I think we can hang on to our philosophies for teaching and how we want to present dance education and incorporate where we are in 2023.
Yeah, I agree. It's only going to help your business in the end. Truly. You don't want to be, I hate to say it like this, you don't want to be left behind.
No, I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
And there's a passion in what we know, we learned, we feel. But you open your eyes to other things, and that passion can only build. It's not like we've learned it all. I've been at this a long time, and I watch the seminars we produce, and I watch the business training and idea, and I sit there and go, oh, good idea. You know, it's like, it's a consistent, if you're open.
Right.
Okay, that was a deep, heavy thing.
Right.
Part of coffee talk. I'd love to know who's watching today. Please check in with us. Give us some comments. Let us know if you have any questions. And we'll be back in just a few seconds with Ashley Canterna-Hardy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm just checking on these comments here. Ashley Canterna-Hardy, welcome, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. We're so excited to chat with you this morning.
Me too.
I think you got some fans out there.
Yes, she does.
Do I?
Yes,
You
you
do.
do.
I'm going to put their comments up in a minute. So if you're a fan of Ashley Canterna,
Thank you.
let us know. Ashley.
Yes.
You've been at this a long time. Dance is kind of a piece of what you know this life to be. You opened a studio. You took over and launched your own studio a year ago. What are some things, I'm going right in, what are some things that you didn't know when you launched this studio that you know today?
So first, I do have to say that it sounds really cheesy, that it really is like a dream come true to have this. Of course, there are some things that are kind of crazy, which we know, but some of the things that I feel like I knew a lot of what I was getting myself into, which I think is making it be successful, because I was aware that it was like a 24-hour job, 7 days a week. But some of the things that I wasn't aware of were just kind of like things when it was like taking care of your staff, right? Like I want to make sure that they feel seen and heard. And I was staff, but I also was taking care of a lot with the previous owner. And it felt kind of like the two of us all the time. But there were so many important people that maybe weren't feeling as valued as they should have been. And not because nobody cared, just because it was something that wasn't being maybe looked after as much, if that makes sense. So the care and value of my staff, like of being in charge of them, but making them understand that I see them for, they're as valuable as I am. I don't want it to be the Ashley show and then everybody else. That's not it. So I think that was one of the things that I have grown from the most in actually owning it, that I wasn't really aware of, because I was kind of just, it's like I said, 24-hour job, right? Every day. And you're just going and going and going and going and going. And I just feel like that was one of the things that I've been open my eyes to a little bit more, is checking in with them all the time, making sure that what they need is happening, and that I am their biggest advocate on their side and on their team. And so that's been something that I actually like, because I feel like we're a much stronger team because of that. So that was one of the biggest things that I learned from taking over. Because as far as the ordering the 1,000 costumes and doing all the registrations and making the schedules and all of that, I was used to that because I had kind of taken over that job before I owned the studio. And lucky for me, my husband does the majority of the business stuff, the business end. So I get really lucky with that. And I have an amazing.
Can I say you're very lucky with that? You're very lucky with that. That's amazing.
So that was one of the things that, because we have 4 children, there were things that when we decided to make this jump that were like non-negotiable. We had to make sure that I wasn't drowning or he wasn't drowning, because then the kids would be drowning, and they're still my number one. Our family is our number one. So, and there were times where we fall into it where even he'll be like, okay, look, you're a little too wrapped up in XYZ. And I see that. And I'll be like, fair enough. And we have to have that communication, or it can, like, I can get sucked up in it because I want everything to be perfect. My family life, my studio, and that's not always realistic. So I am lucky because there's studio manager too that works the desk for me. She takes on a lot, which is amazing. So I feel like the support I have is remarkable.
I think that's huge, because you're a mom of 4. I'm a mom of 1, and my dance studio has been open we're in our 13th season. And I granted, I started from the ground up, so it's a different situation than you. Different burdens, right? Like different struggles, things like that. You had your own thing with getting it to be your brand and everyone on your side, and you know what I'm saying? Like getting your systems and processes and how you want your business to work. And then mine was growing it, right? But I couldn't imagine having 4 children and a full family in those. I just gave a presentation at Rider University, and I talked about how I purposefully waited to have a family for the first 5 years. I started my business at 25 because I didn't want to have a family the first 5 years. I said, I don't know how I would do it. So the fact that you're doing it times 4 children with a husband is like, to me, like, I'm like, how is she wearing all of these hats?
So I am
the wife, all of it,
I am a high anxiety individual. So I am like, I run on busy. It works for me. I think everybody's different with that. Like, I would rather never have to sleep. I like to go, but not everybody runs like that. My husband's the opposite. So it's kind of amazing that it works, but maybe that's why it works. But so I like to be busy, but I also like to be involved in everything. So sometimes it can be like, I want to be involved in all my kids' classes at school and all their after school activities and the dance studio, like it, but it is kind of how I run. I don't think that, like, I'm glad I didn't start. I'm going to be 39 this year. So I was 37, almost 38 when I opened, and for me, it was the perfect time, because I don't know if I would have been able to handle it in the actual thick of like starting my family. So it's just, again, it's so individual how
Yeah.
these things work. And I was such a people pleaser when I was younger that I think that I could have easily let the studio kind of like eat me alive instead of me being able to set the
Mm.
boundaries I need to now, be strong enough to really believe in what I'm doing, because I do believe in the way I am, running the studio and the culture of the studio, and the things I believe in are very different than maybe when I was younger, a younger teacher. I was very into making sure everybody was technically correct all the time, and each dance was. And now I'm in such a different place with like I want every single child to feel seen and as important as they are, and I want to know all of them, and I want them to have that experience. And I think Ree had so much to do with my growth because I have learned so much from being involved, and just what's really important, as opposed to when I was growing up and everything was like, you have to be this good, you have to win this, you have to do this, and it was like the pressure was so much. So I think where I am, it just was the right timing to start it all.
Yeah.
Just individually too, like from a personal standpoint.
Yeah. And I think that's so true. It's like everyone's journey is so different in this, especially in like the dance studio ownership world. Because I think at 25, I think now that thinking about it, that was a struggle of mine. Remember that first year or two, it was like, I hate to say being like railroaded by parents, but I didn't have any boundaries. So I was a little, right? Like I didn't have a handbook and a code of ethics and like all of that had to be developed, right? Like over time. And like, really, what do I want from this place? What do I want when you walk into my building? How do I want you to feel? How do I want your children to feel?
Yeah.
Right. And that comes over time with building like your culture of your dance studio. So it's interesting. You kind of walked in already with the knowledge of knowing what you wanted to create. It's just putting those boundaries in place for yourself. Right.
Yes,
So like,
because I wasn't good at that at all. And at times I'm still not, but I've come a long way.
mm,
For our listeners, I was thinking the word ever since you said, my family comes first. For our listeners, tell us some of the boundaries that you've created when it comes to having 4 children in your studio within this first year of business.
So I made it very clear to begin with, like vocally at our first meeting ever, that I'm a parent just like they're a parent, and they want to be involved in their kids' lives, and I want to be involved in my kids' lives. So if that means that I have to be sure that I have everything put in place with faculty that I truly trust, and I need to step away to be with my family, that's where I'll be. And honestly, the most lovely part is they really have, like, it just is normal. Does that make sense? Like, it's just
mm,
normal in our studio. Like, they know it. And I'm like that with my faculty too, because I have a few faculty members that are also in the thick of it with their kids. And I make sure if I have to cover a class for them because they need to go to their kids' performance or game or whatever, we've got each other's backs with that, because you can't get that time back. And I will have this studio hopefully for a very long time. But there are certain things that I will never be able to get back if I don't attend, or if and I couldn't have that. So I made it very clear from the very beginning, and it is kind of the norm here, which is fantastic.
mm,
I also had to change because we have already grown quite a bit. In the first year, I had to say, like, no more texting my phone. Like, if you need me, you're going to email me. And it kind of took people by surprise. Some of them were really offended. And I was like, it's not that I don't like you. I really do, but I can't do this. Like, it was consuming me,
mhm.
and it felt bad. Like, it felt uncomfortable. It felt upsetting. I was really anxious, and I felt like I had to get back to everybody right away, or my business was going to fail.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're talking about your clientele texting you.
Yes, and that's my fault. They shouldn't even have my number. But again,
No.
we had
Everyone has a personal preference. And then I
we
think you
had it,
realized it.
2001 or whatever, or whatever. So
Right.
it's just, it was kind of like when you started out with a team of 15, and then all of a sudden you have, so in the handbook this year, it had to say, like, if you need me, unless it's like a true emergency, you're going to need to email me and give me 24 hours or whatever to get back to you. And, unless it's an emergency, or I do use like the band app or whatever for our team. And that's been lovely. But just placing those boundaries, that was a little bit hard because some of the people took it almost like personally. But I had to be like, this is a business. And I never used to look at it quite that way. That's another thing that changed a lot since it is mine. And I have to look at it that way. Because I wear my heart outside. You can see it. So it was hard, but those were the boundaries I put in place. And like my son, he just had his last tournament this weekend. And I one game throughout the whole season. I only missed one game because we had our trunk or treat and their thing got switched or whatever. But otherwise the kids know, I'm gonna be going to be a part of this stuff. And so it just kind of is the norm, which is great.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
I want to say to those studio owners, seasoned studio owners listening to this, how cool is it that this new studio owner started off with these boundaries?
Yeah.
And what does that say? That says that those of us who haven't set boundaries, let's do it. It's important. And Ashley, how cool is it that you started right off that way?
Well, I just feel like I appreciate that. I just feel like we should be able to have both. We should be able to have a successful business and a thriving family that they know that you have their back. But the kids at the studio, the parents at the studio, they know I also do have their back and I'm there for them. But I just don't feel like you should have to have one or the other, or one has to be failing, or one, you will fail at times. I know there are times where I feel like I'm drowning. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like it's all perfect all the time and my balance is great. But when it's not, I do try to, and my husband will, like I said, or say something, or I'll be like, I feel completely overwhelmed. I need to take a night or whatever. And just make sure that, that you make that happen. But I just always felt like we can, not just but like we can have both. We can make that happen. So trying at least.
I think it's fantastic. And I think having those boundaries up front and people acknowledging it, now you're setting yourself up for such long-term success, because that's one thing I remember early on in my journey. But when I got into like IDEA and the Gold Alliance, talking to like my mentors, they just kept saying like, you can have both. You can have a family and be at the soccer game while there's a dance convention going on, your company director is with them.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like, it's okay to do that, right? Like, just yesterday, it was a very long business week last week. I was spent. The girls, a couple of my dancers were in Atlantic City. My company director was there, and she was Instagramming and cheering them on and going from room to room. And it was great. And I walked around the King of Prussia Mall because I needed a mental health day.
Good for you.
I needed to just disconnect and chill out, and just so that I'm okay to teach my 5 classes today, because like you're saying, the week just keeps going, right? Like and then I have to make sure that the costumes are being checked in. Like it's nonstop. So having those boundaries in place and knowing that they'll be there forever for you, because like you're saying, you're going into year 2 for you. It's like, this is the beginning of your journey. You're going to have the studio for forever. So knowing that you set those standards for yourself and for your staff, like, that's amazing.
Well, I think that's the thing too. You have got to surround yourself with people that agree with your philosophy. I don't mean everybody has, but like that are, there are people that maybe just, it won't fit. It won't be the right fit.
Right.
And I'm not good at that all the time, because I'm like, oh, you want to give people a chance or this and that. But when it came to this, it's like, I have to trust you 100%. We have to have each other's backs. Like, this is, because it is very important to me to make sure that everybody is taken care of. I don't want to drop the ball here, because I feel like you could either way, but surrounding yourself with a faculty that you truly trust. And, just what I've done is more check-ins with them, more meetings with them, more showering them with, great things to keep them motivated and happy and feeling appreciated. And I feel like at that point, then it just like, it's a cohesive type team. So that has been really good. I have really actually enjoyed owning the studio more than I thought I would. So, I mean, I always wanted to, but I was nervous. I was scared.
Great.
I was scared of it.
You're gonna be just fine, my friend. I love the level-headedness of your whole philosophy as you're starting off. I want to ask you a question that I'd like to dig a little deeper in, and something you said earlier. I do remember the time when you were dancing. I had kids, students who were dancing, and the win was really important, not only to the dancers, but to the teachers who worked with those dancers.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to the point where this perfection or the winning isn't as important as it was at that time? Because I think there are a lot of competitive people who've been competing for a long time and are caught in this cycle of, I have to keep up with myself. I have to keep up with myself. And that is a hard thing to do. Arriving at a place where you're satisfied with yourself is key. Go ahead.
So I think it's just like gaining perspective. When I was younger, it was driven by teachers. They wanted my sister and I to be their student so they could have the win. It wasn't about us, and we didn't realize that at the time, right? So we didn't, it was not pleasant either. I'm going to be honest. There were a few people we worked with that it was not a pleasant environment or experience. And we did feel so much pressure to win. And we did follow through. We did great, right? And that's lovely. But that is not what made me into who I am today. That's for sure. And so it's lovely that we did so well at competition, right? But that's just not the perspective I carry in my studio, and the philosophy I have. I think it changed when I went through a lot mentally and emotionally in dance, and realized that I was in some places just completely being used for my talent, and they didn't really care too much about me as a person, but really just me as we will gain this win or recognition because they're our student. And when I went through mental health issues, with, as I've talked about here plenty of times, with having eating disorders and basically breakdowns because of the pressure, I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? And why am I doing this? And it did come back to, do I want to quit? Do I want to do what I love, which is dance, not compete, dance. I love to dance. Then it came to, I want to change the dance world, one day at a time, right? One kid at a time. And that's when my philosophy became like, to do this to better these kids, not just as dancers, but as people. And so when I started teaching, I loved it more than anything, but I still fell into not wanting kids to win because of me. Like, I didn't need that gratification, because I guess maybe because I had already done that or experienced that, and it wasn't all it's cracked up to be, right? It was great, and I loved competing. I have some of my best memories at dance competition growing up, but most of the time, the majority of the time, it's because of the people I was with. It's not really just, I loved being out on stage, but you could have stopped before the awards and I still would have loved being on stage. Because
the friends.
That's what I'm saying. My friends, like, I loved seeing people and being with people and hanging out with people. And we were all the same. Like, it didn't matter who won or who didn't. We were this group of people that loved what we did and loved being with each other. But when I started teaching, of course, I was still in the mentality of like train, because I had just come out of that. Now I felt as though I was doing it in a positive way. But like I said, now my philosophy at my studio, and I feel really good about it. We have so many new students that came from other places, didn't poach any of them, I promise, but just people that have come in and out, and everybody has said, and their parents have emailed, we know they're getting great training. That's fantastic, but they're happy and the environment is so positive. They don't feel pressure. And like, for me, that's everything. That is everything. And let me tell you what, my students do well at competition. That's great. They do, because they train a lot. It's not like, it's not,
it's science, right?
but they do train a lot. They have
Mhm.
lovely faculty. They care a lot. They do well. That's great. But the environment is the most important thing to me. If
Yeah.
it goes south, I don't want it. Like, that's not what I want. Um, so my perspective has changed so greatly throughout my years, and even more so recently, with, so many personal things, dealing with my own children having, some special needs as well. I'm like, my God, how can people or parents not see how lucky they are to just have kids getting to do what they love to do, bodies that are able to do it, being able to pay for it? And I go through this in every meeting I have, because I actually see it that way. I'm not just pretending to see it that way. I don't pretend to run my studio that way. Like, it really is how it feels. You're not going to always have everybody on board with that. And you're going to get pushed at times to be, why aren't they dancing 7 days a week? Well, we don't dance on Sundays. It's not going to happen. My studio's closed. Saturdays, very short amount of time for Nutcracker. That's it. I don't want the kids living there because they need a life outside of the studio. So if
Right.
people don't agree with that philosophy, that's fine with me. There are plenty of studios in my area, lots. That's fine. But for me, like, my perspective is really changed a lot, and it drives my studio to be the way it is now. And so I do want to keep it there. And I don't want it to change. I only want it to keep going. So,
Don't you feel like too, I've seen it a lot, and maybe it's my area, I'm not really sure. The amount of pressure that these kids are under at school. Like, if you're a
oh, it's
freshman and you're not
unbelievable.
taking AP senior level classes, well, then what are you doing? And I'm like, you're a freshman.
Yeah.
You don't have to
I
take
have
college courses. Like, the amount of like, so to me, it's like when they come to dance, they should be working hard and excited, but they shouldn't feel that level of like pressure. I know the kids in my area are getting a lot of pressure from school. It's a very hard school district. So it's like, I think you and I are in the same boat. Like, they get good training, but I want them to be excited to walk in. I want to be their happy place. I want to be their happy
And
place.
there are days where absolutely you can feel the vibe,
Oh,
and you're like,
100%.
me giving them a hour and a half Vaganova class right now is going to throw someone over the edge. So let me pivot.
Mhm.
I
Let me
love
pivot.
that.
It's true. And
Mhm.
so I do feel like I have a good feel on that, on teenagers, and if I need to step in and navigate things a different way to help them. I mean, we have these tables and such for them to do their homework. I've found kids in tears doing their homework because the pressure is ridiculous. And then
Mhm.
also, if they aren't completely immersed in something after school at their own school, it won't be good on their college application.
Right.
Then they want to take every class here. They want to be, I mean, it is too much. It is too much. I mean, I was homeschooled and doing all the dance stuff, and that was plenty. So I cannot imagine, the amount of pressure that they are actually under.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah, I'm wondering if our viewers are dealing with this. Let us know in the comments, because I do think it is that today's youth, people say, oh, they're not what they used to be. And my answer is the world isn't what it used to be.
Yeah.
I feel like I was under, and I thought it was pressure, but under much less pressure before social media and the
Oh,
world
that's
we
the
know
worst.
today.
Yeah.
Growing up, I had the freedom to experiment. I had the freedom to make a mistake and know, and I had to face the mistake. It's, yeah, they've changed, but the world has changed,
Yeah.
and we have to figure out our place in this new world.
Yeah.
Even for studio owners, I don't know if you feel that. It's like social media, I just have to get off sometimes. It's too
Yes.
much because it is like a rat race that I honestly often just don't feel like being involved in. But if you don't, promote this, that, and the other, sure, there's plenty of places that will be, and maybe they won't fine you or whatever. But at times, you just have to be like, it's fine. Like, that's actually not me, right? Like, to do
Mhm.
this, that, and the other. So the kids, I mean, they are under it so much, and it is constant. And like you said, with like college classes and in ninth grade, and you're like, well, those were supposed to be college classes in your ninth grade. So why is that even a thing? I don't know.
Why is it a thing? Right.
It's not for me,
Exactly.
I can tell you that. I'm like,
Right.
my daughter's 13. She's in 7th grade. I'm like, oh God, please, you're doing great. Don't even worry about it. I'm like, cool when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Like, don't like, no, you're going to be fine. Like,
right.
it's too
I know.
much.
I say that to my husband all the time. He's
Too
a
much.
mechanical engineer and went to Notre Dame. So it's like his brain is just like, he's probably one of the smartest people I know. And I came from a family where my mom was like, if you give me first honors, what do you want out of it, Laura? And I was like, can I? Like, it was like a negotiation to get, and I literally say to my mom and my husband, I'm like, I turned out fine. I was just I had certain things in my mind that I wanted to do. I wanted to own a business. I wanted to go into dance. I knew algebra was not gonna geometry, like, you know, and
My
it's
kids don't
just,
come to me for help with their homework. I can tell
yeah.
you. And I always
That's
say
not
that.
gonna do.
I say, look at mom. She's doing just fine, but you can
That's
go after
right.
dad.
I say that to my husband all the time. I'm like, you know, accounting, creativity, sure, I can help Cole, but other than that, he's going to you.
I want to know what you guys think of this comment. Shelley, thanks for the comment.
Oh, interesting.
What do you think of that?
So, is it okay if I say something?
Oh, right.
No.
I want you to lead it and then I'll follow up.
So, what
Go
I
ahead.
see, and not just dance, because I have 3 boys and a girl, but Gabby is here with me at the studio all the time. And lucky for her, honestly, everybody is very, very loving to her. She hasn't had to deal with much that you would think she would have to as a studio owner's kid, which is lovely. But parents take everything as like, if their child wins, that's a win for them. It's their win. It's so much about how they feel about themselves because of their children, instead of it being like, if I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but yes, I think that that's what it is, because it's more for their validation instead of just their child, or their child having fun, or their child accomplishing that. Because honestly, like, very proud, like 2 proud mama posts I made this weekend for my son in baseball, but I had nothing to do with it. I sat there and smiled, gave him bubble gum and cheered him on and thought he was great. And those were his successes. I didn't do anything. I washed his uniform, I supported him, but it wasn't my success. It was his. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that I see at the studio often, it's for them, and they get themselves worked up about other children, or
Yes.
other people's accomplishments, or other people on social media getting a photo shoot. So my kid needs to get one, and blah, 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 blah. Like, I think so much of it is they feel value from that, instead of it being maybe just supporting them. And they love them. It's not, I don't think it's always negative. I think it's a matter of thinking that is support, but really the support is just being there for them.
Yeah.
Do you think, as much as we talk about the impact that social media has had on young people, that it's the same thing with these parents, that they want to get on social media and say, my son just won blah, blah, blah tournament. My daughter is going to this university and my life is perfect. How's yours?
Yeah, I think so. And I think sometimes it is very innocent. I don't think it's like always for a brag. That's the thing that's hard. It's like, it's not always for like a brag. You can be super proud. And like, for me, a win for my kid is a little different than for someone else. Mine is like, doesn't have a lot of confidence. Really cool to see this growth in this way or the other.
Right.
Do you really need to share it on social media? No, you don't. But at the same time, it's really fun to interact with people that you might not usually, and be like, oh, you know, like, you have a support system that they really do love you, but you're not going to text that to them. Or, you know, like, I don't even have their number to do that. But you know, I like seeing that from other people. I enjoy keeping up with people's lives. And I think there's a difference between sharing being proud and like being so immersed that it actually like affects you.
Okay. Yes.
Right. And like being happy for other people. and being able to look at someone else's post and be like, that is so cool. I'm really happy for you. Or knowing that someone's just trying to dig at someone else, because I think you can almost tell which way you're going.
This is an interesting comment.
I was reading that one. Yeah.
Comparing themselves.
I think
to the best kids in the world. I can't disagree with this.
Yeah. I feel like that's the hardest part for me when it comes to teenagers with social media. It's like their brains sometimes can't understand when they see like an 8-year-old doing 6 pirouettes, right? And I literally have to look at them and I say, you have to realize she's at the studio 30 hours a week.
So
you don't want to be here 30 hours.
Is this you or Josh Hardy, by the way?
I can't believe it. I think my jaw just dropped down. I can't believe he's actually watching this, but cool, right? Support. There we go.
There you go. We want to welcome Josh Hardy to today's show. I didn't know that when I put the comment up. I did realize it. Okay, go ahead.
I hate social media. Hates it because of that reason. And we don't let our daughter have it, who's 13, and she's, wants it, but because of that reason. But I think going back to the 8-year-old thing, my Nutcracker is open to other studios. I don't try to make it just for our studio. If people want to perform, they're welcome to perform. So we have this sweet little girl. I love her and her mom, and she came and she's 7. And I tell you what, she is not normal, and in the nicest way ever. Not like our 7-year-olds don't look like that, right?
Right.
But again, she is in the studio so much, but she's also naturally very gifted. Right. And that is a thing. And that's hard for people to feel and sit with. And it's very much easier to blame your coach, blame your studio, blame everything else. So-and-so pays for more privates. It's that. But some kids are just more able-bodied. Some kids are more coordinated. And some kids have the drive. Like that's one of the things missing in my one personal child. It just doesn't have the drive to be that. And that's okay. It's not, everybody's not going to be like that. So I said, because some of the kids are like, holy Lord, how is she like that? And I said, look, honestly, some of you could dance that much, get that many privates or whatever, and you're still not going to be able to do that. And I don't mean that negatively. And I'm not a bad teacher for being honest. I think some of these kids and parents need people to be more honest and say, look, I know what you're going to say. Oh, it's because she's Ashley's kid, or, oh, because they take this class, the other. That's not it. Like most of these kids are actually taking the same classes with the same teachers, the same time, and they're not the same because they're not the same.
And some of it comes down to, like you're saying, your natural. Some kids walk in and you have the ingredients to create an amazing dancer, and that's just God given. Like
the training matters, no question. And being at a place with great training and faculty and that you trust is fantastic. But I think the trust is what's really lacking in parents. I think it is just always, there's a lot of parents that just want to make an excuse. And I try very hard to not fall into that in anything, because I think about myself in my situation. And I know there are people that will say, Ashley spends more time with this person or this person. And it's like, I know that's not true. And I know that's not why they're doing well, but you can't make people understand that nor believe it, because they didn't grow up in that world. They don't understand that you truly do have their best interest at heart all the time, or that you're not giving Susie 100 more hours a week. You can't always make them. And at the end of the day, if they're not going to trust your program or they're not going to last there. And that's okay, because you can't make them. Right. And I think that's where another thing, owning the studio, I've actually already gotten better at. It's like, it's okay. I'm not going to be one of those mean people that if you go somewhere else, I'm going to talk about you because you went to another studio. I'm going to wish you well. And it might be uncomfortable, because I might reach out to you and say, I hope you're doing well, and I miss seeing your kid or whatever. I hope they're great, because it's not going to work for everybody. But I think trust is what's lacking a lot, because again, you look and it comes back to social media. You see 18 posts from different places, and the people are checking out every studio over and over and over again, instead of just like staying where they are and staying the course. It's tough.
And this is a key, I think, there's any parents listening, but maybe teachers need to hear this. I think some parents believe they can buy their child's success.
I think so for sure.
Not that one, Ree. Yeah.
For sure.
And you can't buy
Yeah.
a successful dancer.
No.
Ashley, you said it earlier. You and I could grow up with exactly the same teachers, exactly the same course of study. And one of us is going to be stronger than the other. One of us style is going to be different than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the parents are like, well, if she does another lesson, she might be as good as so-and-so, or she does another solo. No.
Right. I also think you have to define success because I don't necessarily think that success is just really doing well at a dance competition. You know,
you have to be able to tell parents, listen up, everyone, all the things that dance competition does for their children without ever mentioning winning.
Absolutely.
And you have to recognize that as a teacher.
I think
leader.
At times it can sound hypocritical coming from someone like me, right? Who says it's not all about winning. But if I post something amazing, oh, so-and-so just won this. Like, I'm not trying to be hypocritical because it isn't all about winning, right? But I have said this and I will stand by what I say. So this summer, my daughter and niece both won this huge title, right? And I said to them, the most important thing of that entire experience, and it was what they did leading up to that. 150%. Their work ethic, their determination, and you're not always going to win if you put that into it, right? You're not, the prize, I mean, right? The crown, right? But what they gained from that experience was invaluable. Like, I'm telling you, the difference I saw in them as people that will help them later on in life, because it's lovely that happened for them. And I did, it was a big deal that they accomplished that, but that isn't going to be their success in the end, because both of them have different goals rather than being a professional dancer later on. And it's so funny coming from our family, who we are a huge dance family, huge, but that's not really always everybody's end goal. So what is success? And for me, setting them up for a successful life is more important, because that wasn't me. I was homeschooled so that every blessed moment was dance. And it kind of did skew my thought process on life a little bit. I can be very like tunnel vision with just dance instead of other things, if that makes sense, because that was my entire life. So I'm trying to set these kids up for success, not just a crown and sash or trophy.
Yeah. I've said to parents multiple times in the past 13 years, I said, that only the top 1% of every studio in the country goes pro? They were like, that's it. That's it. So I'm like, you see all these amazing, fantastic dancers, vast majority do not go professional. And I was like, but I'm thankful that I have lawyers who've graduated. I have doctors.
Absolutely.
I have, small business owners. I have developed independent, self-sufficient, smart, amazing, independent women coming out of my studio, and I was like, and they go to school and they understand in college, how to manage their time. They don't feel overwhelmed. Those are the things that they're going to learn inside of the buildings of these studios, not necessarily just how to do a double or triple pirouette. Right. That's what they're learning. Yes, that's the material, but there's so much more beyond that we are able to give them. If we have that trust from their parents, right? If they understand that process of how, like, the overall above it view, right? Not just I want to win title.
Right. I loved that comment about shortcuts, by the way.
Which I'm trying, you know what? The comments are coming in long and fast. This one we're going to need some time to read, but go. Is this the one you were talking about?
There was one from Suzanne, I think, that said about there are no shortcuts, and that's the truth in dance. And people want instant gratification, and that is not possible. I mean, you have to stay the course, and yeah, right there, you have to stay the course and trust, and people are trying to jump from convention to convention instead of just taking classes at their studios and excelling at what I should say normal, right? A normal pace. It shouldn't go from A to Z. That's not how life goes. And like I said, my daughter's 13 now, but when she was 6, I'm not even, or 5, I'm not kidding. She was dancing 1 hour a week total, just taking a class. People were like, aren't you going to do this? Aren't you going to do that? And I'm like, no, no, actually I'm not. I know it's shocking, but you just have to kind of stay that course and trust. And I don't know, I feel like I say it all the time, but yeah, I liked that comment because it's very true.
Yeah.
That was a nice comment from one of the moms in your studio.
Oh.
You're doing it. You're obviously doing the right thing.
That makes me want to cry. And honestly, I appreciate that. Thank you. And I have loved that journey though with this particular family, because it's been a lovely journey to see these kids grow happier and all of them enjoy this journey together. Because for me, I get sappy now. I get so sappy having kids because it's so fast. It's so quick. It's so quick that this journey with your children at, under your own, home, it's so quick. I look at it and I'm like, how is Jeff Bezos' kid said that's hilarious. That's true. I wish I would take that turnout.
Turnout on Amazon.com.
Well, I ordered a daughter with crazy feet and turnout, but she didn't happen. She had to work really hard for that. So there you go. I mean, work really, really hard. And I think that's what's been cool as a mom with a kid that dances is this kid has had to push herself to get there. I haven't given her any free passes. But yeah, it's a cool journey. And it's not without its ups and downs. But I think that most people that know me know that I'm in it for the kids. I'm not in it for myself. Of course, it is a business, obviously. And I want my business to be successful. But my number one are those kids. And it always has been, but more so now than ever, because I do see how fragile they are right now growing up. They're growing up against a beast, I feel like, in this world that they're in. So I'm very much for these kids. And it's not, like I said, it's not always peachy, but I think that anybody that does come here at least feels that trying to have that for the kids. So, and I have the professional credentials, right? To say to them, I know how to train a dancer. Like I do have confidence in that. I'm not the most confident in the world at everything. I second guess myself. But when it comes to that, like I did it. I had the training I needed, the journey I needed to be able to produce a good dancer, right? Technically. But I think the other stuff's way more important personally. So I feel like having those tools is why I ended up where I ended up.
Yeah. Those other stuff is lifelong lessons.
Yeah. And I didn't have all of that. I didn't have all of that growing up. And so I think that was what pushed me to want to take this on, because it's definitely not an easy, it's not an easy job. That's for sure. And it just doesn't stop. And I think unless you are fully aware of it, like you might just feel like you're giving yourself busy work. Or even my husband will say to me, like, you're not the president of the United States. You shouldn't be that busy. I'm like, I know, but I promise you I am. Like my list is still so long. I don't even want to look at it. And I get paralyzed, frozen. Like, I'm like, I can't even do anything because I have so many things to do.
I get that feeling sometimes
right?
too.
I just get like frozen. I'm like, I did nothing and I had 18 things to do, but I can't. And I'm just like very much in the thick of it with my own children at home. And that obviously takes priority. So it's something.
I have to wind us up, but I love talking to you, Ashley, because of your confidence. And I want to say something to you, but also this is for everybody who's watching. you talked about growing up, being homeschooled, everything was dance. There were some moments that were really tough. You know, that is all happened for a reason, to put you into this place where you are right now. Even winning in the dance competition, it gave you recognition and somebody that people look up to. And I'm like amazed at how together it appears that you have it.
Thank you.
See, I have a philosophy for everybody who's watching. You don't have to have your blank together. You have to appear to have your blank.
Right. Look, I mean, for the most part, yeah, my life is so real. Saturday, I had a 2-year-old that was puking all night till 1 a.m. So, you know, it's like life is so real. It's so real. But I do feel as though the way I portray myself is who I am, maybe a little bit fancier on right now than I usually would be, right? But for the most part, yeah. And I think that so much, all of it is because of the struggles that I did face. But loving dance so much that I knew that that was never going to be something that I wasn't a part of. So kind of putting all of that together to become what it is. Now I do feel like, again, I'm like such a sap sometimes. Every blessed thing happens for a reason. And I have faith that I am where I am supposed to be, because there are times where you want to throw in the towel for sure and say, or maybe maybe this is too much, or maybe this is, but then you regroup and you realize that, you're making a difference in your family's life, which is awesome. But also to make a difference in all these kids' lives that might need it more than you realize is really cool. It's really, really cool.
Yeah. And you're doing it. You're living your dream.
That's really amazing. But so grateful for this community. I mean, since getting to work with Ree has been like literally life-changing for me. So it's cool.
It's awesome.
I love having you on board, my friend. You represent our future and the philosophy that I'm so for in our industry. This is how you're successful. Loving your kids, loving what you do, and it not having to be about only producing great kids, but giving them life lessons.
Yes. So important.
Listen, Suzanne, I just want to say it's been nice to have you on board, a part of our show today.
Really? She was like
probably everybody in the world knows Suzanne. Good to see you, my friend. You get a shout out.
I appreciate it. It's so cool. Such a cool world we live in. I tell you, our dance world, our dance community is so special.
Yes.
And diverse.
Yes. And that's what's been cool for the studio too, because that's something that was, important. So I think that, it's just cool. It's cool to be a part of.
Life is good. Dance teachers, studio owners, even some parents that are watching, know this dance thing is a gift. And that if we use it the right way, even the kids who become doctors and lawyers because of the life skills they learned in the process, they still have a passion for dance. It never leaves once it's in there. So let's be aware of that and let us just pass that on and be satisfied that that's success. Thank you, Ashley. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks.